From downtown Detroit, Local 4 Live starts right now.
Hey everybody, welcome to Local 4 Live. I'm Nick Monticelli. Another day of deep dives of topics that are important to you. The first, we have seen a population increase here in Detroit and across the state, but we are still losing very talented people who are moving out of Michigan. So we're going to talk with Michigan's growth officer about a new program that's aimed at keeping talent right here in Michigan. Also, GM making a big announcement, investing $4 billion into U.S. manufacturing. We're going to talk about the reasons, tariffs, and EV demand. And finally, over at Comerica Park, the boys of Detroit Sports Plus talking about our red hot Tigers. Well, we just mentioned we're going to be talking with the Michigan Chief Growth Officer about keeping talent here in the state, which leads us to our Local 4 question of the day. You can scan the QR code right about, I do this every time. Where is it? There you are, right there. There's that QR code. The question is, what should the state do to keep and support young professionals or entrepreneurs who are building careers in Michigan? We're going to check and look at some of your comments and responses in just a little bit in the show. But your first headline here at 8 a.m., a big announcement from GM, that $4 billion investment in American manufacturing over the next 2 years. We're going to start with where the money is going. There are 3 different plants across the country. One of them is the Orion Township Assembly Plant that closed 2 years ago. And then there's the Factory Zero plant in Hamtramck being affected. You're looking live, or we're looking live at the RenCen, thanks to our friends over in Windsor. So for the Orion Assembly Plant, that plant is actually being rehabbed. In about 2 years, in early 2027, they're going to start making all of GM's gas-powered full-size SUVs and light-duty trucks. That's key to understanding the why, because the plant closed in 2023 and it was being retooled to build electric trucks. That's no longer happening. Instead, making the gas-powered ones. Now the Factory Zero plant in Hamtramck is becoming the dedicated assembly plant for many of GM's electric vehicles, the Chevy Silverado EV, the GMC Sierra EV, GMC Hummer EV, and the Cadillac Escalade IQ. So, now let's talk about the reasons why. 2 of them, demand and tariffs. There's increased demand for gas-powered SUVs, which are a huge profit for GM, and demand for electric vehicles is not rising at the pace expected. GM, of course, also looking for ways to reduce the cost of President Trump's tariff policies. Manufacturing the vehicles in the U.S. solves that issue. In fact, this move will likely be considered a huge win for the president and those tariffs. He hasn't said anything about it yet, but when he was in Warren in April, the president said automakers wanted to come back to Michigan because of the tariffs. In about 30 minutes, we're going to talk to a Wayne State professor to help us understand a little bit more about the impact in Orion, in Hamtramck, and all across Michigan and the U.S. To some headlines, demonstrations against President Donald Trump's immigration policies have grown from L.A. to major cities like New York, Chicago, Boston, and Denver. Trump has sent the National Guard and Marines to L.A., as he puts it, to restore law and order. While businesses have been looted, city officials say most of the people protesting are following the law. This is also sparking a feud between California's Governor Gavin Newsom and President Trump. Newsom is saying the hundreds of troops being deployed is only making the situation worse, and Trump is standing by his decision.
If we didn't do this, Los Angeles would burn. It would be burning to the ground right now, just like the houses burned to the ground just a few months ago.
We do not want our streets militarized by our own armed forces, not in LA, not in California, not anywhere.
Well, 2 sources tell NBC News ICE special response teams will soon be deployed to 5 cities run by Democratic leaders: Seattle, Chicago, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., and New York. But it's not clear when immigration raids will begin. Well, it has been a key priority in Lansing for years now. How do we grow Michigan's population and keep young people from going to places like Chicago after graduation? We're going to hear some ideas from the state's chief growth officer, but first, let's look at some of these numbers. Starting in Detroit, back in May, Mayor Duggan announced Detroit has grown its population for the 2nd year in a row. The city gained nearly 7,000 households last year and was leading Michigan in population growth. Now, looking at the growth for the whole state, between 2023 and 24, Michigan population grew by 6%, or 57,000 people. At the Mackinac Policy Conference last month, the state announced the launch of Make Michigan Home, or Make My Home. Get it? Right? It's giving $769,000 to split amongst 5 groups, including the city of Detroit. Detroit is using the money to elevate some startups.
One of the things that this helps mitigate, we hope it helps mitigate, is the costs associated with owning homes in the city of Detroit. Not only owning homes, but renting homes, down payment assistance for single-family dwellings and townhomes.
All right, so joining us now is the lady in charge, Hillary Doe. She's Michigan's Chief Growth Officer. First, I want to note that many people are looking at this growth as an amazing thing, which it is.
Absolutely.
But I think something that is sometimes forgotten here is that we're still losing domestic talent, right? So we're getting people in, but we're also seeing younger people leave the state of Michigan. So I guess that's the biggest problem you've got to solve.
Yeah, absolutely. We are at the beginning of our trends really going in the right direction. So we are seeing great progress. 66% of Michigan counties grew. Obviously, Detroit grew for the second year, and we saw other places like Flint report growth for the first time in 25 years. Our trends in general are really going the right way, and our young adult population is actually accelerating at a faster rate than 45 other states. So we're starting to really see things move in the right direction. But we're at the beginning of that journey, and we have to do more to ensure that more folks continue to stay here, and we're retaining more and more of our talent.
You know, I would like to consider myself a younger person, but I don't think I am anymore. So what is it that the younger kids want when they're looking at their options and they see Chicago or Philly or New York or some places? Are we just not cool enough? Like, what's happening?
First of all, we're very cool.
Okay, good.
And especially, I mean, the Detroit region is very cool, both to folks here in our state and across the country. We've talked to 20,000 Michiganders at this point and actually polled 6,000 young people across the country, asking them what they're looking for in a place to call home. Folks want great places, which includes, walkable, amenity-rich communities. But they also want things like housing investments and the ability to own a home. That was one of the most motivating factors. So our historic investments in housing are making a difference. We can see that. They also want access, when you're talking to young families, to things like childcare. And we saw Michigan make pre-K free for all 4-year-olds in our state. Those kinds of big policy changes are and will continue to help in our efforts to retain and attract talent.
When we're looking at or considering the younger population, and I don't know a better way to say it than just that cool factor, right? But, what Mayor Duggan and all those partners in the city of Detroit have done to make downtown Detroit a cool place to be and to live.
Sure.
Is that a factor, just that place where there's cool lighting and great places to walk around? You can go to the bar, you can bring your friends downtown. Is that a factor?
Absolutely. And I would say the coolest thing about Detroit is and always has been Detroiters. The culture, our music, the incredible things that we make that spread around the world. And so we need to be telling that story loud and proud. Our Michiganders are our best ambassadors. So I encourage everybody to go ahead and brag about what a wonderful place we live. And we actually launched the most ambitious talent attraction and retention campaign in the country over the last 18 months. And that marketing effort has so far brought in over 40,000 people saying they're interested in living and working here in Michigan. So it's working. Those stories work. Go ahead and tell your friends.
tell everybody.
Yeah.
How do we stack up in terms of cost of living when you look at some of these other big cities that people are going to?
Yeah, well, Michigan has a great cost of living. That's one of the sort of cherries on top in our pitch. We actually have the 4th lowest, for example, housing prices in the country. So for some of our boomerangs, maybe Michiganders who've left the state and are considering a place to call home, that's a big draw, for considering coming back home. Yeah. And we also have about a 10% or lower cost of living just in general on goods. So, even though folks here might feel a pinch and folks across the country do, and we need to keep fighting for ensuring affordability for all Michiganders, we do have it a little bit easier than some other folks.
What would you say are the top career opportunities that we have in Michigan when you're trying to attract somebody? I think the number one thing is, well, where am I going to work?
Yeah, well, I will say first and foremost, folks can go to the michiganlife.org, and there's a career portal there. And today there are over 140,000 open jobs here in Michigan.
140,000?
That's correct. And in great fields, things like semiconductors, high tech fields, fast growing industries. And we're actually the second fastest growing startup community for entrepreneurship and innovation in the country. And those are really appealing jobs, especially for young talent. So, we have a lot going for us and incredible sort of tides. I shouldn't say headwinds, the opposite of that, right? At our back, really pushing us in the right direction.
I've heard some conversations about our region being maybe eventually a smaller version of Silicon Valley. Do you think that that's a possibility?
I think we actually had folks from Silicon Valley come into Detroit and say, how do we do better? Because we actually are seeing such fast growth and real attraction. We have organizations here like Black Tech Saturdays, for example, which I would argue is now the preeminent, ecosystem for Black and brown founders.
Yep.
And, there's really nothing like it across the country. Those kinds of communities are critical when you're trying to retain and attract founders. And we'll continue to get better and better at investing as well in our founders. We passed something called the Innovation Fund last year to continue capitalizing those in companies and ensure that they stay here in our state. I think we're doing a lot of things right in that direction.
So we're doing a lot of things right, but we still are seeing some people leave.
Absolutely.
So when you talk to those, or I'm assuming you've had the opportunity to
Yes.
talk to those who have left, what's their reason? Why?
Yeah. Well, I think historically folks leave for a couple reasons. They leave looking for opportunities. And again, we're working on that and it's getting better. But, over the generations, that's what folks have left looking for. And we need to tell our story again to bring them back. But they may have also left because we didn't do what we needed to in terms of, investing in our places or investing in, talent in the past. So those kinds of investments we're making now are really critical and we want to double down on them since we're seeing those trends go in the right direction.
Is there anything to just being a younger person and saying, I just want to spread my wings and fly. I want to get out of here. How do we, I don't want to say clip the wings, but how do we tell them, but this is a great place. There's no reason to leave.
Yeah, I don't think we want to. I think that we want to make sure that folks know what we have available. It's incumbent on us to make sure that folks see our great places and, the great programs we're making available. But also for folks that choose to go and, check out what the world has to offer, that's a great benefit to us when they know what we have on offer and they choose to come back home.
Right.
I'm a boomerang myself.
Yep.
They're bringing home
Show
with
your
them all
tattoo
their
real
life
quick.
skills. Oh, gosh, I don't know the best camera.
I don't
for
either.
it. Here
Is there
we
one
go.
around?
I don't know. Here we go. There it is. I got two peninsulas on my arm there. A little Michigan up my sleeve. But all to say, they're bringing with them all that rich life experience, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And hopefully, we'll also do a better and better job attracting folks who picked their head up off their pillow in Seattle or Nashville or Austin to say, hey, I want to try on Michigan. I want to try on Detroit.
Right. We've talked about opportunities. Where are we in terms of competitiveness for salaries?
Yeah. I think that the Midwest in general has room to grow in that regard. But because we also have this lower cost of living and lower cost of housing, it really, comes out in the wash in that regard. But
that's a tough message to send.
Right, exactly. Especially when you're a young person and you're maybe getting your first offer or something like that. So one of the things that we did at the MichiganLife.org is create a cost of living calculator to really help folks kind of compare what their options can look like in black and white. And
How far that dollar can go, basically.
And also help them see holistically what their life can look like. So if this is the cost of living and these are the housing options available and, here's kind of holistically the job options available, what's my day-to-day going to look like? And that's really what I encourage folks to do, because the thing that Michigan will beat other states on every time is that holistic quality of life. Not just an incredible 9 to 5 full of opportunity, but also an incredible 5 to 9 with unmatched natural beauty, incredible cultural experiences. And when you put all of that together with that cost of living, you really get something. I've lived all over Brooklyn and LA and Chicago, and I wanted to be right here, and I think others will continue to make that choice.
You said that we're starting to kind of catch up in terms of salaries. How long do you think it'll be until we're competitive with, say, Chicago?
I think that looking to the entrepreneurship and innovation and the startup ecosystem that's growing here is a great place to look for that, because what it does is attracts investment from across the country, right? And so you're also attracting talent from across the country, and you're attracting competition from across the country. And that's what you want to see in order to grow salaries, because you'll see folks needing to compete in a national market, right? And as that continues to grow, which, like I said, second fastest growing in the country, that's a way to really throw the gas on in terms of continuing to see salary growth.
So maybe 2 years, 5 years,
Well,
10?
you said 2. Well, let's lean into that.
All right. Well, it's live. It must be true, right? I mean, realistically, though, what's a timeline? 5 years, 10 years?
It really will depend industry to industry what we'll see. So I think there's no one answer to that question. But I would just encourage young people to look at the opportunities available, look on resources like the Michigan Life to see what industries are fast growing and where there are lots of open jobs. And that will give you a sense of where there's strong economic sort of wins.
I think that message that you said, too, is incredibly important, because salaries may not be quite apples to apples, but what you get here is worth so much more, and your dollar does go so much further here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, on net, then you'll end up, at least this was certainly my experience. I was in a, 800 square foot apartment in Brooklyn.
Sure.
And I joked with too many mammals. I had, a dog and my husband and a kid. And now we live in, Detroit proper, 8 minutes bikeable from downtown in a nice big house. And I just could not have had that quality of life.
Right. And you're probably spending about the same much too.
Much less,
I think. Less?
Much less. And so I think that is what you'll find, right, when you really look at it. Apples to apples, it's like an incredible deal to be here for, I would argue, an even better quality of life.
I would too.
Yeah.
I would too. Hillary, thank you so much. You're doing great work.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for everything you're doing. All right. Appreciate time. All right, we're going to go to break right now with a live look in Manistee this morning over on the west side of the state. A beautiful place, by the way. One beach is stealing the spotlight as the best beach in Michigan. Welcome back, everybody, to Local 4 Live. We're going to take a live picture right now at First Street Beach and Douglas Park in Manistee on the west side of the state. This beach right here was just named the best beach in Michigan, according to USA Today. Other beaches that made the list include South Beach in South Haven and the Sleeping Bear Dunes in National Lakeshore. Unfortunately, if you're an East Sider, one beaches on the west side of the city, all of them were on the list. All right, our floor director and stage manager, Nick, the other Nick, the more important Nick, right, is nodding in agreement. Those beaches are huge for me. I don't know about you, but Grand Haven, the Muskegon area, awesome. But this is Ron Hilliard's debut on Local 4 Live here at 8 a.m. Welcome to our fancy microphone setup.
Thank you, Nick.
This is more casual. We just kind of hang out and just talk about things.
Yeah, I like this.
Yeah?
This is really cool.
A little more intimate lighting. It's just a conversation. Yeah. Okay, the forecast, I was looking at you watching earlier today. Yeah. You bumps in the road here and there, but for the most part, looks pretty good. We're finally kind of getting to some weather we can jump in somewhere.
Yeah, I got a message, in my Facebook messages, actually. Someone's like, why do you all complain about the heat? Trust me, I'm not one to complain about the heat. I love the heat, Nick. It is going to be hot today, though. Some people I know don't like the mid 80s. Some would prefer it in the 70s, but it'll be all right. We'll be back in the 70s tomorrow. Near 80. All right.
Okay, fair enough.
So there's the look right now into downtown Detroit. We are seeing up into Midtown, seeing into New Center. You see all the new developments. We were talking about the population growth. Hey, we have it. You can see it with all the construction that's happening.
We've got the space for you.
We have the space for it,
Right.
right? So the temps right now are going to be in the 50s and 60s here in Metro Detroit. We are warming up very quickly, very nicely. It looks like we're 59 degrees right now in Ann Arbor. We're looking at 59 in Pontiac, 62 as we go into Mount Clemens. So some really nice weather going across the state. Speaking of the west side of the state, where all those beaches are making the list, right now we're coming in at 64 in Muskegon, 61 in Ludington, which is really close to Menifee. We're looking at 61 in Port Huron, closer to Metro Detroit, right here in southeast Michigan. So the winds right now, they're out of the southwest, about 5 to 10 miles per hour. We'll see some of those gusts popping up right there around 10 to 15. But it's later on in the afternoon hours, Nick, that we see gusts that will be up to 30 miles per hour. So maybe not the day to take out the boat on the lake. You might want to just wait until later in the week. Wait for Father's Day.
Definitely not the sailboat for sure.
Yeah, definitely not. So breezy out there this afternoon. We have the air quality still an issue. We've been talking about this for a while. I know it's like a broken record, but the air quality is being impacted by the wildfire smoke. Thankfully, we're on that left side, the moderate end. That means we're not seeing huge impacts, but still seeing the wildfire smoke impacting us. We'll be seeing hazy conditions because of that. We have this warm front that has passed through southeast Michigan, bringing us that warm air. That high pressure system is impacting our weather. It is going to be sunny today. Clouds start building as we go into the nighttime hours, and then by tomorrow morning, showers possible for the north side of southeast Michigan. I'm talking about the thumb. As you get closer to around the I-69 corridor, that's where we can see it. In the evening, Metro Detroit and Lenawee and Monroe counties could see this popping up in the evening again around 8, 9 o'clock tomorrow. The forecast for us today, we're getting up to 87 degrees for a high, and it is going to be a hot one out there with that, again, 70s as we get into the next few days, Nick.
Okay, I'll take it. I'll take it.
I'll take it too.
I'm curious, when's the last time you had to do your weather forecast sitting somewhere and not actually looking at a giant screen next to you?
This is pretty neat. It's nice. It's nice to kind of sit down too and just relax.
Right? When's the last time you got to sit down and give your forecast?
Right?
Never.
It's up to my family, Just...
Yeah, right. All right, Ron, thanks, man. I appreciate you. Our biggest contest of the year is officially underway. It is time to nominate for your favorite local business in this year's Vote for the Best. We want to hear about your go-to spots around town, like your favorite sandwich place, brewery, museum. Scan that QR code there on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen to nominate. You can see the complete list and nominate once per category per day over at clickondetroit.com/vote for the best. Nominations, by the way, close on June 15th, so 4 days from now. Well, this is your chance to win a trip to Universal Orlando Resort and the new theme park, Universal Epic Universe. One person and up to 3 guests have a chance to win an epic getaway. We're talking round-trip air travel to Orlando, 5 days, and 4 nights at the brand-new Universal Terra Luna Resort. Plus, you also win 4 3-park, 3-day park-to-park passes, plus a 1-day Universal Epic Universe ticket. For official rules and to enter, also go to our website, clickondetroit.com/epic getaway. The winner is going to be announced live during the Ford Fireworks on Monday, June 23rd, which of course is broadcast right here on Local 4 and Local 4 Plus. We'll be right back after this short break. Good morning, everybody. I'm Nick Monticelli with the Local 4 update. Detroit police searching for the gunman in a double shooting on the city's east side. Investigators believe this happened last night near Coram Street and Rex Avenue. One man was killed, another is in critical condition. We'll have more on this streaming over on our Local 4 Plus channels. Also, much more coming up on the Plus for a new streaming show happening in just a few more minutes. We're going to talk about that $4 billion investment from GM and what it means for Metro Detroit. Plus, the boys from Detroit Sports Plus talking the Red Hot Tigers and the key players making the team hit its stride. And at 9, we're talking about declining birth rates directly linked to the uncertainty of our economy. Also, Ron is going to come back and look at your forecast in just a few minutes. A live look over at DTW right now where the haze still lingers over Detroit. We can't escape those Canadian wildfires.
From downtown Detroit, Local 4 Live starts right now.
Welcome back, everybody. 8:29 here, almost 8:30 on your Wednesday morning. We're going to be talking about all the big stories here and breaking down the big headlines of the day. Also, having a conversation about why these headlines matter and what they could mean for you, including one of those headlines, General Motors making a major announcement that came out yesterday on the $4 billion investment they're making in manufacturing plants as you look live at the RenCen right now. We're going to be talking with the Wayne State expert in just a few moments here to break all of this down. But first, let's get to the major other news headlines of the day. Let's start with a live look at downtown Detroit, where later today, a researcher with ties to U of M will be in federal court accused of smuggling biological materials into the U.S. Shante Passmore has a look at what we can expect in court later on.
Hey, good morning, Nick. This is really a story that's grabbing national headlines based on these serious allegations. However, we're learning this is a lot more common than we think, and right now it appears that the feds are cracking down on enforcement.
After recently being detained at Detroit Metro Airport, a researcher from Wuhan, China is scheduled to appear before a federal judge. Chung Shun Han is charged with smuggling and lying about packages mailed to a U of M lab. The packages allegedly containing organisms in petri dishes and biological material hidden in books. Authorities say Han also admitted to clearing her phone before flying to the U.S. to, quote, start fresh. It's the third time in less than 2 weeks that a Chinese national with ties to the Ann Arbor school has been charged with federal crimes. Last week, a couple was accused of smuggling a dangerous fungus for research at the university.
They're seeking your detention based on the fact that you present a serious risk of flight. Do you understand all that?
Well, this is unfortunately not unusual at all. This has been happening for many, many years.
This former U.S. attorney for Michigan says the feds are cracking down.
Pretty apparent that this is happening more and more. And it's also apparent that the U.S. Attorney's Office and the Justice Department is stepping up enforcement. And I think we're going to have more of these cases in the future. So it's not going away anytime soon.
Again, Han is expected to appear before a judge in federal court later this afternoon. We're in downtown Detroit this morning. I'm Shantae Passmore, Local 4.
Shantae, thank you. One man is dead and another is in the hospital this morning while police look for the gunman who is responsible. A shooting happened late last night near Coram and Rex Avenue. This is on Detroit's east side. That's near 7 Mile and Kelly. Right now, the details are pretty slim, but police say this could be a domestic incident.
So just before 10:30, units received a shot-spotted run in the area of Coram and Rex. Upon responding, they found they were approached by a non-fatally wounded victim who directed them toward the outside of the location where there was a male found to be shot on the front porch.
Now, that man shot is in critical condition at the hospital. Anybody with information asked to call TPD as soon as they can. Some breaking news now on the trade war between China and the U.S. President Trump just announcing new details saying the U.S. will get magnets and rare earth minerals from China, and then tariffs on Chinese goods will now go to 55%. We're going to keep an eye on this all day long today. In fact, let's take a live look at how markets could shape up today. Looking at the futures right now with the boards opening in about an hour, but those details on this China trade agreement could be changing things significantly. We're also going to see how GM's investment announcement will impact the stocks. Stay tuned. Again, in the next hour, we'll take you live to the opening of the markets. Well, now for some perspective on our big story of the morning. General Motors moving to increase production in the U.S. The automaker says it will invest $4 billion into 3 plants in the U.S., including the Orion Assembly plant in Orion Township. This is all on the heels of that 25% tariff on imported cars. Jeff Reitmer is a professor of supply chain management at Wayne State. We've been talking to him a couple of times throughout this process. Jeff, thank you for joining us this morning. First of all, we haven't seen anything yet, but we're anticipating the president and the White House kind of making a victory lap on this one. What are your thoughts?
It doesn't surprise me. It kind of surprised me. It doesn't shock me that GM's going to do this. The market for EVs just isn't there, and they need to recoup some of that. So investing this makes sense. As far as a victory lap, if you will, it's important to remember that these aren't really manufacturing jobs. They're assembly jobs. We're still going to bring a lot of material and so forth in from Canada and Mexico to put vehicles together.
So if you're looking at the reasons and the why behind this, do you put more eggs in the basket of tariffs, or is it really more about the lack of demand for EVs, or is it both?
It's really both. The tariff certainly has an effect. And in talking to some of the people at GM that I know, months ago they were talking that everything at that point was on the table. And you will probably see something like that from from Stellantis and from Ford. Ford is in a unique position because they already assemble most of their vehicles here in the United States. They do have capacity at some of the other plants, Flat Rock, Kansas City, and so forth. So bringing some of that back would not be a real stretch for them.
So, and again, you alluded to this, I just want to dive into this more, is that while the vehicles may be assembled here, the guts of them, a lot is still going to be coming from overseas. So how does this help General Motors offset some of the cost of these additional tariffs?
They still had that 25% tariff on vehicles coming into the United States. So that helps them avoid that. They will still see the tariffs on those parts coming in, but they can make that up in savings with assembling the cars essentially here in the U.S.
All right, so let's talk more about electric vehicles then. Obviously, the plan was for Orion to become all EV. And now that's not happening, going all gas, with now all electric vehicles being shifted down south to Hamtramck. So we knew that the demand for EVs wasn't keeping pace with expectation, but does this tell you even more of what that demand is not?
It really does. And again, some of this is surprising and some of it's not. The administration is now saying they're going to take out the taxes on EVs. And they're also going to put a tax on hybrids to make up for the loss in gasoline tax revenue. So it really does say a lot about what the automakers think of eventually the EV market. It's just going to take longer to get to that point where you're going to see that demand that they want or they need.
You know, if I recall correctly, I believe General Motors said they were going to be all EV by 2035. We're 10 years out from there at this point. I don't know if that is still a realistic goal for them. What do you think?
The way the market is moving now, I don't think it's realistic. And you have seen some of the models that they were going to produce next year being pushed out. And I think you may see more and more of that. The volume at this point just isn't there. The problem also becomes a lot of suppliers invested in supporting the EV movement, and the volumes aren't there. And so it's really going to hurt the supply base at this point.
So one more question for you. We could talk the lack of EV demand for hours if we wanted to, but this obviously is the automaker's decision then. But the shift away from EV, retooling Orion, how does that affect your tier 1, 2, and 3 suppliers?
It is really going to hurt them in terms of trying to support that move from what they thought it was going to be, the EV market, to now tool back up for the gasoline or the internal combustion engine products. You're also going to have to look at, are they going to start moving some of their manufacturing back to the U.S. to avoid tariffs? So those investments, and coupled with cash flow from the tariffs, when you bring something in, you've got about 7 days to pay that tariff. You look at the terms and conditions from your customer, they can have up to 90 days to pay. So it's not unrealistic to expect that there's going to be some suppliers that could actually declare bankruptcy over some of this.
Really? Wow. Okay. Jeff, thank you so much for your insight. We always appreciate your time and your expertise on this subject.
Not a problem. Always happy to be on.
Thank you, sir. All right, as we head to break, let's take a live look over in Charlevoix this morning. Are you dreaming of a Great Lakes getaway? Well, the reasons behind this place right here, Charlevoix, being named on the top places to visit when we come back. 8:42 here on your Wednesday morning. Taking a live look right now about 270 miles northwest of Detroit. This is Charlevoix. According to Midwest Living, Charlevoix was named one of the 20 best small towns for a Great Lakes vacation. Sitting right on Lake Michigan, the magazine calls Charlevoix an easygoing little beach town with a triple lakefront. That's because the town is surrounded by Lake Michigan, Round Lake, and Lake Charlevoix. Also, if you're thinking about a trip up there, our producer Mary found a pretty couple cool spots to visit. They include mushroom homes. It's just homes that look like mushrooms. You can grab a pic over by the Charlevoix drawbridge if you'd like. You can also enjoy some Celeste Murdrick's fudge. They used to have the biggest cherry pie pan in the world. They lost that title back in the 80s when Traverse City made a bigger pie pan. All right, Ron Hill, you're back in the corner with us. So, are you a cool kind of easygoing beach kind of guy? Do you just want to lay there and soak up the sun? Do you want to be on a boat? What do you want to be doing?
Boats are awesome. I love kayaking, actually.
Oh, really? Okay.
You know, and it's nice. I love the city. I love Detroit. I'm a native of Detroit.
Yeah.
But it's so nice to sometimes get away to the smaller towns and get off the beaten path.
Yes.
One of my favorite places is Port Austin and Thumb.
Sure,
you know, the tip of the thumb is so beautiful up there, watching the sunset, just getting out. There's Turnip Rock up there. I mean, there's so much to see all across
Sometimes I think we can take it for granted, all the things that we can do and all the places we can explore that are within a pretty quick driving distance for you.
And I still have not seen the sand dunes.
You haven't been up there
I have
yet?
not been up there. I can't believe it.
Oh, boy. You know, our director, Nick, he'll take you in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I got to take a trip. So, for those of us who are in the city right now, it is sunny, hazy, hot. And that is pretty much the case still across all of lower Michigan. It is going to be hot today. So, here's what we have in store for us. We have these temps right now in the 50s and 60s. They are going up. We will have those temps that are going to be in the mid-80s as we get into the afternoon hours. Right now, 62 degrees coming in out of Metro Airport. The winds are out of the southwest around 5 to 15 miles per hour. Gusts are not a huge issue right now, but they will be on the rise. So temps across the region, you'll see them right there. 62 in Howell already, 62 also for us in Mount Clemens. So look at what we have across the nation. We are not really that much warmer than a lot of places. I mean, look, it's in the 60s and 70s in the Gulf. You go over toward the southwest, you do get some heat as you go around Phoenix, where it's already in the 80s. Now, we are going to be seeing the hottest day of the week today, this afternoon. The average high for this date is 79 degrees. As we go into the weekend, the average high is 80 degrees. So we're going to be a few degrees shy of average as we go through the week, but it is going to be still nice outside. Looking at the radar and satellite, we have mostly clear skies right now, besides some haze. We don't have any rain just yet, but that is in our forecast. Mostly cloudy as we go into the nighttime hours, so those clouds will be increasing. We go into tomorrow morning, some showers popping up over the thumb. We go into Metro Detroit in the evening, and that's when Metro Detroit has its thunderstorm and shower chance. Again, that's the evening for Metro Detroit around 8, 9 o'clock. So here's our forecast for today. We are going to be getting into the 70s later on this morning, getting into the 80s in the afternoon hours. A great day to go ahead and wash the car, maybe take it to the car wash or wash it by hand, do it yourself. 87 degrees for that high. We're going to be in mid-80s all across Southeast Michigan. 63 for the overnight low. Mild out there. And then looking ahead, Father's Day right there. We do have a couple of days of some showers, but Saturday will be the final day of that. Sunday, Father's Day, looking really good out there.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's a good grilling day right there.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah?
Sounds good.
Burgers, hot dogs, sausage. What do you like? All of it?
Yeah. Some vegetables on there too.
Vegetables?
I like to put salmon on the grill actually.
Oh, that does sound pretty good. I'm coming to your place.
Hey,
Good
come
deal.
on.
All right. Thanks, Ron. Coming up here next on Local 4 Live, all things sports. A live look at Comerica Park now, where the guys of Detroit Sports Plus talk about our Red Hot Tigers over there in Copa. We'll be right back. I have to tell you some behind-the-scenes stuff. Director Michelle is trying to tell me that every Friday it's going to be Nick brings donuts to work on Friday. I don't know. But you can't threaten me, Michelle. She's like, if you want to look good, if you just turn off the cameras if I don't do it. Let's talk Tigers. They have one of the hottest teams in baseball right now with a live look over at Comerica Park. We have a video sports podcast here on Local 4 Plus called Detroit Sports Plus. Our main sports guy, along with the two newsroom biggest sports fans, talking about the biggest headlines in Detroit sports. Here's what they had to say about the Tigers' weekend run with the Cubs.
Looking at game one, Tariff Skubal came out against the Cubs. He set the tone. The offense showed up for him. He gave up the run. They got one right back, and then they went off to that 3-1 win. His story explains itself. Game one was kind of the epitome of what he's done all season long. But to see Jack Flaherty perform the way he did on Sunday to set the tone in that win. We'll get to the bullpen and the bullpen starts and the bullpen days. But what do you think of Flaherty? And do the Tigers need him to perform at that level to be that consistent, dominant team for the rest of the year?
They don't need him to be because he wasn't earlier in the year, but it takes him to another level. Because, if you remember early in the year, it was like Skubal, Mize was the big story. Yeah. Reese Olson was pitching really well. And Jackson Jobe, and Flaherty were kind of the weak links early in the season. Now he's pitching like the number 2, which is what he was for the Tigers all last year. And that's great to see because Mize and Olson hurt. Mize is stumbling a little bit. So, yes, Jack Flaherty getting things together is a game changer.
It's almost like Skubal in the rotation.
It honestly is.
That's really what it is right now.
Yeah, he's like the lead singer of a pitching band.
He kind of is.
Yeah.
How about this SGL guy coming up? Like, what am I supposed to think about him?
Yeah, Sawyer Gipson-Long.
Please tell me.
He literally, all the excitement from him comes from 20 innings back in 2023. He made 4 or 5 inning starts, and he was like electric. He did the typical Tigers thing where he came up, his minor league numbers were okay, and then he just looked amazing. So I'm excited about him, but I think that we need to see a few more starts because, he missed basically 2 full years.
He went 600 days without playing in a major league game?
Yeah, so from one crazy start, there were some good things. He can get swing and miss in the zone on his fastball, which is that's a huge, huge feather in the cap of any pitcher. But beyond that, we just got to see what he can do with the secondary stuff.
Looking at the pitching staff, last year, this team thrived on pitching chaos. That was the bread and butter going into the playoffs. Fans loved it. Teams didn't know what to expect whenever the Tigers would throw somebody out there. The last 2 games, though, that has not worked in their favor, whether it was against the White Sox or against the Cubs. Does that aspect have any cause for concern for you right now, especially being out 2 starters right now with no Reese Olson and Jackson Jobe still working his way back?
Yeah, I think the concern for me mostly centers around Tyler Holton, oddly enough. He was sort of the guy and Bo Brisky. Those were the 2 guys that sort of tied pitching chaos all together because they could go multiple innings. They could get both-handed players out. And this year, neither of them have been nearly as consistent. Most of the good pitchers in the Tigers bullpen are mostly 1 inning, maybe 4 or 5 outs guys. Mm-hmm. And I think that makes it a lot tougher to piece together a ball game, right? So Brant Herter is pitching really well, but I do think the Tigers are less built this year with Brisky and Holton struggling to maintain pitching chaos. Luckily, they have a lot of starting pitcher depth. Beyond the first 5 guys that they have in the rotation, they've got Cater Montero, they've got Sawyer Gipson-Long, Jackson Jobe, and Reese Olson hopefully will be back at some point. So they shouldn't have to rely on pitching chaos too much.
If only Kenta Maeda was still around.
Yeah. Tough loss
Do you
there.
feel like the Tigers are going to have to make a move to bolster the bullpen at the deadline?
I think they'll be in the market. I don't think they'll make a move. I think they'll get a bat. I really do think they'll get a right-handed bat, maybe a primary third baseman. We'll see how Javi Baez performs from now until then because he's slowed down a little bit. But I think that the priority should be to get a bat.
I love that whenever you bring up trade or free agent talk, it always goes back to third base. From the offseason to now, we're still talking about that. But if there was one area, I don't even know if it's an area of concern, but it's crazy that might be just the one area that is the question for this team right now.
It's not like it's been a huge hole because the Tigers and AJ Hinch have been able to fill it with multiple bodies. Mm-hmm. But if you wanted a little bit more consistency at a right-handed spot, that's where you would go.
Also, All-Star voting from the fan perspective opened up last week. Since we did the show, this team, it's almost anybody's night on any given night for this Tigers team. If you had to put a number on it, how many All-Stars do you think the Tigers are in store for in 2025?
I think the Tigers are going to get at least 3. I could see them getting as many as 7. They've got some gap guys.
Have you been voting a lot?
I have not yet been voting. No, since it opened, I've been a little busy. But I think the Tigers, Gleyber Torres is like a slam dunk. Second base is pretty weak. I think he'll be a starter. I think Torkelson will get in there. He's a high-profile guy. He's leading first base in home runs by almost double.
What a story.
Yeah, great story. I think Riley Green sneaks in, and then obviously, like, the only question about Skubal is he the starter or is he in there? And I think he'll probably be
Who else
the
in
starter.
the American League could give him a run?
Yeah,
right? That's the question.
I've got 4. I've got Chris Bubich from the Royals, Garrett Crochet from the Red Sox, and then Wayne State star Hunter Brown from the Astros. I think that's kind of a big 4 there. And if you just purely went off of like ERA, it would be Bubich, but Tariff Skubal is just so much more dominant in every other category. There's honestly not much justification going anywhere else.
And also, if you want to talk like the buzz name in baseball when it comes to pitching, it might be him. Like
Skubal?
Yeah, because
sure.
we talked about this team not getting the praise of the national media. I mean, I was watching ESPN the other night, and they did an entire segment on just his start and just how phenomenal it was and the numbers behind it. So I think he's definitely getting the credit, and I think we could see him start.
The numbers are great, but also just passes the eye test with flying colors, right? Like he'll just like scream in your face after he strikes you out. So it's good TV.
Is it a scream or a roar?
It's both. Yeah.
Ken, how many you got? Everybody?
You just send everybody. Yeah.
The entire American League?
Send the entire. Yeah, send everybody. I was wondering, is anybody going to be voting for Javi Baez for the All-Star game? Maybe
Detroit
as an outfielder, because he's been one of the better outfielders in baseball.
These last few weeks have hurt him for sure. I mean, his numbers he was hitting like 314, and he went on a stretch where he hit a bunch of homers, but the last few weeks have definitely hurt him. He's been a little cold. Defense is still great. I don't see him making the team. I will say Zach McKinstry, it sounds crazy, and I really don't think he has a chance, but he's 3rd in the league in WAR among third basemen and 8 in outfield. So if that tells you anything, he has a case for 2 different positions, and he's kind of been one of the rocks that ties it all together.
That's incredible.
Tigers. Yeah,
they've had so many glue guys on this team. It's just incredible.
It's all glue. The whole team is glue, man.
Yeah, Dylan Dingler's another one. But they only take 2 catchers, so I really think he'd be number 3. So I don't think he makes it, but he deserves some consideration.
An impressive start to the season. That's said every single week for these Tigers. Baltimore coming up next, and that's a team that they swept earlier in this year. Much more of this conversation on Local 4 Plus and clickondetroit.com.
Look at these guys. Derek, Hobie, Kenneth. Thanks, guys. They also had a lot to say about the Lions this week. You can listen to it right now, as he just said, clickondetroit.com or Local 4's YouTube page. Still so much to come here on Local 4 Live. Places like Costco, Best Buy, and more, they're hiking the prices. Help Me Hank is going to join us to talk about the one thing you can do when you're out shopping to help cut some costs. Plus, a financial expert joins us with tips to navigate the stock market right now and how the economy is impacting the decisions of young people and having families. Plus, the event that happened 220 years ago today that completely changed Detroit and made it what it is today. That's our big talker of the morning. More news and weather in our next hour. Stay with us here on Local 4 Live on Local 4 Plus.
From downtown Detroit, Local 4 Live starts right now.
Good morning, everybody. It is 9 a.m. and I'm here in the studio, which means you're watching Local 4 Live. Let's get to some of your top headlines and stories of today and look ahead at what's in our next hour of news. We're going to take a live look over in Ann Arbor right now. A new study is finding the reason why fewer young people are having children. We're going to talk to an expert about what is driving these major life decisions. Plus, we've heard it's going to happen, but now it's starting to happen. Many stores are hiking up the prices. Our own Help Me Hank is going to join us in studio to talk about the one thing you can do when you're out shopping to help cut some of those costs. Plus, a financial expert is joining us with tips to navigate the stock market right now. And later, this one's going to get you talking. The event that happened on this day more than 200 years ago that completely changed Detroit as we know it. All right, some of the big automotive news today. GM says it plans to invest $4 billion to boost domestic manufacturing here in Detroit. This means GM will be able to assemble more than 2 million vehicles per year right here in the U.S. Plants in Michigan will also be expanding production. Orion Assembly is going to add, after being shut down, all of their gas-powered full-size SUVs and light-duty pickup trucks. There's important context, though. This is most of it, on the heels of the 25% tariff on imported cars. Now, earlier this morning, I talked to Jeff Reitmer. He is a professor in supply chain management at Wayne State about the tariffs and about the impact of a lack of demand for electric vehicles.
Some of this is surprising and some of it's not. The administration is now saying they're going to take out the taxes on EVs. And they're also going to put a tax on hybrids to make up for the loss in gasoline tax revenue. So it really does say a lot about what the automakers think of eventually the EV market. It's just going to take longer to get to that point where you're going to see that demand that they want or they need. The way the market is moving now, I don't think it's realistic. And you have seen some of the models that they were going to produce next year being pushed out. And I think you may see more and more of that. The volume at this point just isn't there. The problem also becomes a lot of suppliers invested in supporting the EV movement, and the volumes aren't there. And so it's really going to hurt the supply base at this point. It is really going to hurt them in terms of trying to support that move from what they thought it was going to be, the EV market, to now tool back up for the gasoline or the internal combustion engine products. You're also going to have to look at, are they going to start moving some of their manufacturing back to the U.S. to avoid tariffs? So those investments, and coupled with cash flow from the tariffs, when you bring something in, you've got about 7 days to pay that tariff. You look at the terms and conditions from your customer, they can have up to 90 days to pay. So it's not unrealistic to expect that there's going to be some suppliers that could actually declare bankruptcy over some of this.
Well, Orion Assembly will start producing, as we mentioned, full-size SUVs and light-duty pickup trucks in early 2027. Factory Zero and Hamtramck, they will be actually making the majority of GM's EV vehicles. A researcher with ties to the University of Michigan is heading to court today. He is currently accused of smuggling biological materials into the U.S. Chung-Shawn Han is charged with smuggling and lying about packages mailed to a U of M lab. The packages allegedly were containing organisms in petri dishes and biological material that was hidden in books. Our question of the day. We want to hear from you in this hour. We're looking at all the younger people to fill us in on this one. I need to understand a little bit better. The question is, has the economy affected your decision in having a child? Scan the QR code there on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Vote yes, vote no. Just let us know where you're at in all this so we can better understand what's happening in the lives of younger people. We're going to look at this later on and throughout all of the show today. It's no mistake that things are getting much more expensive. A new study is showing a link between the state of our economy and the rate at which younger people are having children. The study done by Securian Financial surveyed 1,500 Americans who are around the ages you might start having kids. They say the current state of the economy is a big factor in them having children or not. We're going to be talking live to the folks behind that study in just a moment. But real quick, yesterday, Dr. Mona Hanna was here discussing a program that is about to roll out in some Wayne County communities, giving new moms and families cash to help bridge the economic gap when somebody is taking time off work to have a baby. From what I've read, this was intended to kind of fill an economic gap. When you have a child, mom sometimes isn't able to go back to work.
Right.
Sometimes dad is taking time off.
Right.
And that's a problem. And when you don't have that paycheck coming in, it causes a big issue.
Yeah, it turns out that the poorest time in your life is around that time that you're having a baby. It's around childbirth. Right. Moms come out of the workforce, they lose income. We don't have paid leave. Babies are expensive.
They're cute, but they're expensive.
They're so cute. It's estimated like $20,000 just in that first year of life. So this actually is the period of the greatest economic shock in your whole life. This is when you are, the poorest. The poorest time in your life is when you're having a baby.
All right, so here's some of the numbers currently involved. According to Securian Financial, the cost of raising a child from birth to age 17 increased 42% from 2011 to 2023. Michelle is nodding her head. Yes, she is. Childcare costs alone have risen roughly 22% from 2020 to 2024. That's just 4 years. And then there's wages. A study conducted last year from Bankrate shows the average wage for an American has only risen 17.4% since 2021. So there's bills, debt, groceries, gas for the car. All of this is adding up, especially if you have a baby. We're making this full circle here. Many younger Americans are concerned, even discouraged, about having a child of their own. Lydia Gillick is from Securian Financial, joining us virtually right now. Lydia, thank you so much for joining us. This study was interesting because I think it's something we've all been kind of considering is happening, but we haven't seen the numbers here. What was your biggest takeaway from this?
First of all, thank you, Nick, for having me join you this morning. I think one of the things that was a big takeaway for us at Securian was thinking about how employers can help support their employees as they're going through the process of fertility, as well as those first couple of years of having a child.
So forgive me, but what do you mean by that? How can an employer support through fertility or benefits or more?
Really, it's a whole host of things that an employer can do to really support those employees through that process. And as you mentioned, we surveyed about 1,500 people as part of this process of childbearing years, really working for large employers. But thinking about things like the cost of childcare, as you pointed out, but also things like what can an employer do from a benefits perspective. So thinking about things such as paid time off, maternity and paternity leave, as well as thinking about families that have caregiving issues, really on the older side of that generation as well. So really thinking about a number of those features that they can offer to employees in terms of some of those benefits, I think really is something that employers can do to help.
So all of these are key factors for a young mother or young families when they're probably looking for employment and looking for their next careers. But how do you ask those questions? Because I don't want to say that's a taboo issue, but if I go into a job interview and say, talk to me about your paternity or maternity leave, I'm going to have a family, some employers might have a bad taste in their mouth. They shouldn't, but I think that does happen.
I think people do have concerns about that, either correctly or incorrectly. Some things that people can do as they're going through that process of interviewing for a job, look online, see if you can find some information about the benefits that the employer offers. Talk to other people who work for that employer and look at some of the websites that are out there to understand what some of those benefits are and how the employer is rated from those websites.
That's actually a really good point. Do your homework and your research beforehand. You had an opportunity again to talk to nearly 1,500 people. how much, the numbers say one thing, but what were they saying in terms of what their fears were about the economy or the cost of living? Where are they at?
Really, we saw about 75% of millennials and Gen Zs really having concerns about what those costs may be and potentially thinking about, is this the time for me to have a child? And that also can create a situation where an individual will delay having a child, and that can lead to increased fertility issues, which is another area where employers can really step in and help their employees as they're going through that process. Because if you do delay those childbearing years, you may wind up with some fertility issues around that. So those are the sorts of things that people are thinking about. Do we do it now? Do we do it later? And people always say there's no perfect time, but people do need to make those decisions and have to weigh some of those considerations.
I can attest to that. I'm a father of 3. There is no perfect time. I promise you that. Again, I asked you the question. It seems like there's really no surprise here. It makes perfect sense that people are hesitant to have a family when most people right now are living paycheck to paycheck.
Right. And you did see that the statistics that you brought up there as well, wages have not increased quite as quickly as some of childcare costs and some of the other costs that we have seen. And we really have seen fertility drop over the last several years. Employers can also bring other things to the table, such as additional benefits. I saw as we were doing the intro that there's some benefits that they were mentioning. You can also bring in, again, the maternity and paternity claim, or maternity and paternity benefits, but also benefits that can allow people to have potentially additional protection, such as a hospital indemnity product, something that Securian offers to employer groups to allow for costs to help, or benefits to help offset those costs of the hospitalization associated with childbirth. So really thinking about the breadth of benefits that can be offered.
We asked the question at the beginning of this interview if people are affected, and right now 72% of people are saying yes, the economy has affected your decision of having a child. So again, no surprise there. I did want to ask you, earlier in our broadcast, we had a conversation with the chief growth officer for the state of Michigan, trying to increase the population, especially of younger people here, and some of that's done through career opportunities. With your background and your ties to the corporate world, would you advise companies to, number one, first of all, just provide better not only healthcare but leave options for new families, but to market that and let people know, because that's a big selling point when you're trying to attract the right candidates?
I think that is a very true statement. And also, so you mentioned marketing, and I think that's very important. Tell employees and tell them frequently the benefits that you are offering to them. That makes them appreciate those benefits all that much more. And also, as an employer, don't feel uncomfortable reaching out to employees and asking them what are the benefits that are most important to them, and take that into consideration as you are building your benefits package and thinking about your overall benefits philosophy.
Is that a taboo conversation? I mean, some people are hesitant to start discussing benefits while they're in the job interview process.
I don't think you necessarily have to do it during the job interview process. This is something that an employer can do with their existing population. Ask really what is going to be important to you. But as somebody who's going through that interview process, you can definitely ask to see a copy of that benefits booklet and start to do some research on your own.
Gotcha. All right, Lydia, thank you so much for your time this morning. We appreciate all the insight and, again, the study that's enlightening, because this is an issue that is going to be plaguing us for years. This is a generational problem that's not going to get any better until we find ways to help these folks and get the right numbers and the right lines here.
You're very correct. Thank you so much for having me, Nick.
Thanks, Lydia. Appreciate your time. Well, still ahead, a live look at beautiful Mackinac Island. Of course, a very popular destination for Michiganders. However, you might want to take a closer look at the prices next time you plan your trip. 9:17 here on Local 4 Live on Wednesday morning. A live look now at Mackinac Island, where you might be planning a vacation sometime. It's summertime now, Ron says. I believe everything Ron says. But there's some price changes you might want to be aware of. Ticket prices for the ferries have gone up recently on several online platforms, raising those prices from $2 to $5 per ticket. But in addition to increasing prices, ferry services are expanding the travel options with more ferries to and from the island. I don't know about you, Ron, but I distinctly remember when you're up there making that Mackinac trip, it's kind of, I don't want to say difficult, but it's always in the back of your mind planning your day around the ferry schedule.
Yeah.
Like, am I going to hit the ferry? And then you want to maximize your day, so you're getting like the very first one early in the day. And then by like 1 o'clock, the kids are cranky.
Yeah.
Like the day's over at this point, so just forget about it.
Yeah.
But I do love Mackinac. I love everything about it.
It's a beautiful place. I mean, it's one of those treasures that we have here in Michigan that we've been talking about. You know, you got to get there. It's just a beautiful place. And right now it's about 60 degrees up there.
It's 60?
Yeah.
That's really comfortable, actually.
Yeah, really nice.
Light jacket, you're good all day.
Right.
But don't forget the sunscreen. I always do that. When the cooler temps hit, I forget to put sunscreen on the kids, on myself. At the end of the day, I'm like, why did I burn? Oh, there's still sun out here.
You know, and people are reminding me all the time, Ron, you got to wear sunscreen in the wintertime as well, all year round, you know. Not
in
just
the wintertime?
Yeah, you know, you're still getting the UV rays.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I believe everything Ron says, so if I got to put sunscreen on in the winter, I will.
Yeah, you know, obviously the sun is not as intense, but, you know, want to protect your skin if you can.
But today it is.
Oh, yeah. It is going to be intense.
This is a day.
But it is filtered a little bit because of the sunshine.
Right.
That is blocked a little bit by the haze.
The haze, right.
So
thanks, Canada, I guess.
Yeah, the wildfires. So we are going to be hot today. Here's a look at Comerica Park. A lot of action down there, of course, over the past few days, and then the upcoming games that we have. We have 66 degrees right now at Metro Airport. It is a little hazy out there. You can kind of see it in the air. Winds out of the southwest at 11 miles per hour in Romulus. Now, look at this. We are already at 70 degrees in Monroe, 72 in Sandusky. We're looking at 64 in Pontiac. Same for us in Flint, the vehicle city. Now, looking toward the Mid-Atlantic as you go over toward D.C., Maryland, Virginia, already seeing those mid-70s popping up. Look at that, 77 in New York City, the Big Apple. So coming back home, clouds and radar showing that really not much happening here in Southeast Michigan. We have a lot of sunshine, and we are going to stay that way, sunny, and we will be hot and breezy until we start to see some clouds building in the evening hours, and we will have that cloud cover with us tomorrow morning. Showers in our northern communities for the thumb here in Metro Detroit, and especially south of I-96. That's when we start to see a couple of showers and thunderstorms popping up tomorrow evening around 8 and 9 o'clock. So the morning for the thumb, Southeast Michigan as you go farther toward the south into Metro Detroit and into Lenawee, Monroe counties. That's where you have the showers popping up for us in the evening hours. Now, drought. We do have some of that still here in Lower Michigan. I know we've had a lot of rain recently, but as you go into the Tri-Cities area, Midland, Bay City, Saginaw, they have some really dry conditions. Here, we are already again seeing temps popping up to near 70 degrees. Our high is going to be about 87. It is going to be nice out there, but breezy. Gusts up to 30 miles per hour. Winds out of the southwest tonight, 63 degrees. That is very comfy for a lot of people. People might be able to just crack their window open if it's not too smoky out there. Now tomorrow we go into our day with some clouds. 80 degrees for the high, a couple of spotty showers possible, 79 for Friday, a couple of showers possible for Saturday as well, mid-70s. But on Sunday, Father's Day, mid-70s and dry. You can take that for something. Do something with Dad.
Do something. Go outside somewhere.
Go somewhere.
I was looking at your dog walking graphic there. I don't think I've ever seen a dog walk that calmly before.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that graphic is a true representation.
Yeah, they're sniffing everything and marking their territory.
Right. And pulling you
and yanking. Yeah.
All right, Rod, thank you, sir. When we come back, a closer look at the trial of Sean Diddy Combs as that starts to get underway live in New York City. We'll talk to that. We'll take a look at that trial when we come back. Welcome back, 9:24 here on your Wednesday morning. That is supposed to be a live look. Oh, here we go at the stock exchange. Maybe not. We'll work on the computer. What it was supposed to be was a live look over in New York City, where the trial of Sean Diddy Combs is expected to start in just a few minutes. We're coming off the heels of yesterday's final direct examination of the latest witness. The former girlfriend of Sean Diddy Combs, identified by the pseudonym Jane, has been on the stand for the past few days, giving emotional testimony. However, today she is back as cross-examinations begin. Jane has testified about hotel nights, which she classified with graphic sexual encounters that were nearly identical to what another former girlfriend of Combs, Cassie Ventura, described on the stand as freak-offs. Experts say Jane's testimony is a key part of the government's efforts to show that Combs orchestrated a criminal enterprise to, quote, fulfill his sexual desires. We'll keep you updated as that cross-examination gets underway later on today. Google is currently looking to trim its workforce by offering some buyouts. CNBC is reporting buyouts are being offered to several divisions, including the one that's home to Google's search business. Google continues to try and reduce headcount after laying off 12,000 employees 2 years ago. The company's finance and chief officer said a top priority is cutting costs. Those efforts come as Google expands its spending on artificial intelligence infrastructure that'll happen later on this year. It was a record-breaking start for Nintendo's Switch 2. Nintendo sold more than 3.5 million of the gaming consoles in the 4 days following that launch. The Switch 2 went on sale last Thursday and quickly sold out at many retailers. Nintendo was hoping to sell 15 million of the consoles by the end of March. I don't think they'll have a problem doing that. But some analysts believe that sales target is low, expecting sales of 20 million by then. Let's take you out back to the stock exchange, where they're going to be opening here in about 3.5 minutes. Plus, Help Me Hank is here with some advice to help you on rising costs when you shop. The things you can do, maybe the one thing you can do at the store to cut back right now.
From downtown Detroit, Local 4 Live starts right now.
Good morning, everybody. It is 9:30. We're still in the studio here, which means you're watching Local 4 Live, as always, here on Local 4 Plus. We're going to get to some headlines here. We're going to start with LA protest and a curfew now being enforced in downtown Los Angeles, with police saying they have begun arresting protesters. We can show you some video here. More than 300 people have been arrested over the last 4 days as crowds protest recent immigration and customs enforcement raids targeting undocumented immigrants. The mayor of LA says the curfew could be in effect for a few days out there. Meanwhile, it is a legal victory for the Trump administration's tariff plan, at least for now. A federal appeals court ruling the president can keep many of his tariffs on China and other U.S. trading partners while legal challenges are playing out. The Court of International Trade ruled last month the president exceeded his authority to impose tariffs after he claimed a national emergency. Elon Musk now says that he regrets the posts about President Trump. He made that declaration on Twitter at about 3 o'clock this morning, saying his tweets, quote, went too far. Last week, the two went on it on X, formerly known as Twitter, with Musk saying the president would not have won the election without him, and calling Trump's landmark spending bill a disgusting abomination. Trump then suggested that the U.S. government cut its ties to Musk's businesses. We're going to keep an eye out for a response from the president. Back here in Michigan, an investigation is underway right now. Isle Road of Royal National Park after 2 campers were found dead on the campsite. That discovery was made on Sunday afternoon. Park rangers say they had to hike 11 miles just to get to the scene. Right now, it's unclear what led to the campers' deaths. We're going to update you as soon as we learn some more information. Well, the market's just open for trading. Let's take a live look here at the Dow. Currently down just a little bit, though. We just got some brand new inflation numbers, so I'm guessing that will have an impact here. Also, the big information from GM on their investments, as well as the information on the U.S. and China trade changing. Last month, with food costs rising, that's also an important factor here as well. Consumer prices now up nearly 2.5% compared to a year ago. Inflation is ticking above the Federal Reserve's 2% target, which makes it less likely than the central bank will cut that key interest rate. Well, you hear that sound, you know it's time for Help Me Hank. You may be starting to feel that trickle down from those tariffs when you go shopping. Stores like Costco and Best Buy say they have already raised prices, while Walmart, Target, and Macy's are planning to follow suit. Our consumer investigator, Hank Winchester, is showing us what will cost more and where you can save.
Have you noticed it yet? Price hikes from fruit to furniture, automobiles to your favorite brand of alcohol. This week, you may soon be seeing prices jumping up at your favorite stores, and the reason is simple: tariffs.
Tariffs or not, we all have to be smart consumers.
Smart, we have to be.
Linda considers herself to be a savvy shopper.
I'm a shopaholic. I like buying presents for people.
Yeah.
So I see all day long the difference in prices.
But today, Linda tells me she noticed the staples she normally buys are now costing her more.
We eat a lot of fruit in our house.
Okay.
Berries, big time on berries and fruit.
Okay.
I mean, like $2 or $3 sometimes for the little pint.
It's a big concern. You see, Linda is also a small business owner right here in Metro Detroit. She owns the popular brand Skinny Teas. And while the home base is in Birmingham, many of her actual teas come from overseas.
I don't know what I'm going to do. I really don't want to raise my prices. Does that mean then we're working just to break even, or just for a little bit to pay the expenses here?
Some stores say they have no choice but to raise prices right now, and that includes Walmart, Best Buy, Costco, Target, AutoZone, and Adidas. Here are some of the items that will soon cost you more. Think electronics, kids' toys, and certain food items that are either grown or shipped from overseas. Here's a quick look at some of the items that are already going up in price at Walmart. When you're talking toys, the Jurassic World T-Rex now up to $55. It was $39. The Baby Born doll is now $49. It was about $35. The Light Bright Magic Screen, $21 now. The Thompson Heating Pad, $25. It was $19. A fishing reel, $83. It was listed for $53 just a few months ago. And even a roll of tape, now $9.97. $4.27. It was $4.29 in April.
Well, I think it's been coming, and so whether it's the goods being manufactured and finally getting here to just the supply chain is now at a point where the supply and the shelves are empty, so you have to restock them at a higher price.
Financial expert Dewey Steffen says the price jumps were expected, and now they'll likely be here for a while.
It's going to continue because, again, you have a pause in the tariffs, you have a re-tariff, you have all these different things going on, so it's going to be day by day, week by week.
So how can you save? Well, number one, you have to do your research. Buying American is the key, but that's easier said than done, as most items have some component that come from overseas.
Go online and see if you can find, coupons or discounts, and obviously just, again, really shop around and be an informed consumer.
Well, look what happened. We put some microphones on a table, and Hank and Dewey just happened to show up.
Boom.
Just like that.
There you go.
All right, let's bring the guys in. First of all, we talked at nauseum when the tariff started coming in, that we knew the trickle-down effect would start to get to us. We just didn't know how long it was going to be. I think we're now in a position where you've been doing multiple reports on the fact that people are starting to feel the pinch in their wallets now.
Yeah, I think it took a while, right? I mean, so we heard from Washington that these were going to be moving forward, but what does that really mean for people every day when they're shopping, when they're buying everything from avocados to an automobile? Now we're seeing the financial impact, right? So not only at the grocery store, but soon we're going to see it with automobile dealers, like the Ford dealer that I've been talking to in Dearborn, who says by July that there's unfortunately no other option other than to pass some of that on to the consumer. But I know, Dewey, and what you've been sharing with us and the research that you've been doing, it's really on a kind of a case-by-case basis as to which retailers or companies are going to pass that on to people, right?
Yeah, individual companies or even sectors. I mean, broad-based. You can say the price of eggs are super high and autos may go up, but oil is low. Oil is $66 a barrel, or say under $3 at the pump. So again, inflation is there, but it's really specific to what's happening.
Yeah.
And I think it's safe to assume that we knew that the larger chains could absorb some of that cost for a little bit longer than our mom and pops could. And now we're starting to see larger chains pass the costs on. So how much longer until we see the real impact? We're seeing it now, but the price hike is going to get only worse and worse over time.
So there's two parts to it. One is the real price hike. And again, you had tariffs, then you have tariff pause, then you have 90 days, then another tariff pause, then it's going back into effect July 9th. So you have all this posturing. So what is really the increase at this point? Well, maybe the end consumer is going to pay regardless if the company is going to either try to pass it through just because that's the number, or they're going to be politically correct and consumer centric and try not to pass it through. So there's a lot that, what's the real number versus the assumed number, but what is it now versus what it'll be, 3 months from now.
So on the consumer side of things then, how can we save? Is there a way that we can go into the grocery store and maybe not save money, but not spend as much as we have to?
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky. I mean, if you really talk to...
Do I have to make a list and stick to it?
You should always make a list. Well, are you one of those people that goes to the grocery store when you're hungry? I mean,
I did that once.
Yeah.
Won't do it again.
Get your act together. No, I mean, obviously in times like these, they're going to tell you buy American, buy American. That's easier said than done.
Sure.
Because if you go even on a website like Amazon, the reality is that almost every product has some sort of a component that comes from overseas, or maybe was shipped from overseas, has some hand that's touching it that is from overseas. That can be tricky. So you can, work those loyalty programs. Costco's one of those, Kroger. All of those give you opportunities to save in different ways or apply your bonuses towards gasoline or different things like that. But the reality is the real bottom line is we're all going to be paying more. And hopefully maybe it's just short term. But it is going to be a sticker shock for people, just like that woman in the store. I mean, just something as simple as berries, costing her an extra $2 as opposed to what they cost her just 2 months ago.
And those loyalty programs, like you mentioned, they can be incredibly helpful, but also you have to be incredibly disciplined to do it right.
Yeah, and then, I'll talk to Dewey, and Dewey will say, and many other financial experts will say, this is not the time to be loyal. This is the time to shop around. This is the time to go on every different website, visit every different retailer, shop local, build those relationships to try to work to save. And again, you just said this to me on Monday. If we want to save money, we're going to have to do work. It is not just going to land in our lap like it used to.
From going to fast food change to eat, to which one's better to feed your family, to any purchase from a car on the other end of it. So it's absolutely, you have to do the work. That's a great way to explain it.
And the impulse buys are gone, I would assume. You can't just roam around Target anymore and see what tickles your fancy.
Well, don't take your kids to Target. I've learned, I've learned that mistake long before the tariffs. Don't take your child to Target with you. You will spend 5 times more, right?
Well, there are some stores that are trying to clear their shelves, and there are some products that are always, not going up in price. Last year's electronics is an example. So if, again, those impulse buys is the opposite. No, you're kind of going to be paying the high ticket price and paying a premium for that. But if you want to travel, then go out a year. If you're going to try to, do any really large purchases, you again have to take your time, do your research, and shop around.
There was always conversations about the right time to buy certain products. Does any of that matter anymore?
I think some of it does for larger ticket items. I mean, the autos will tell you that there are certain times when there are incentives. If they continue the incentives,
Sure.
I mean, that might be how some of the autos decide to save money.
Right.
Right now, it's a good time in the used car market. I know that they're enjoying this opportunity because they're able to, offer different discounts and rates and options for people because the new car market is very uncertain right now. And I think that's why people are kind of pausing on this purchase.
Yeah, well, so 2 comments to that. One is seasonal. So if you want to go get a grill, that's going to be at a premium right now. So
Sure.
go buy your grills in the winter.
Yeah.
And then, believe it or not, like travel, airline travel, depending on where you're going, those prices are starting to come down because, again, we're all recognizing that there is the sticker shock or the price increase. So I'm going to drive there. Gas is lower, so I'm going to just drive instead of taking a flight because I'm going to take a family of 4 or a family of 5. So again, there are these places where if you do the research and do the work, you can, I don't know if it's a deal, but you can find at least something that's fairly priced.
But there is something to be said about the mental health of mom and dad stuck in a vehicle for a 12-hour road trip.
Right. Don't take the trip. Put a tent in
family
the backyard.
first, all the love, right?
I'm heading to a dance competition in Pigeon Forge, just outside of Nashville, in 2 weeks, and it's an 11-hour drive.
Yeah, no.
Wheels on the bus go round and round. You have some songs.
Somebody
to
else's
sing.
bus. You go there. I'll meet you down there.
My daughter doesn't even know that dance is an option.
Oh, you want me to send her a picture?
No.
We can do a live FaceTime from the competition if you'd like.
That's okay. But I mean, again, travel, whether it's gas is down. But hotel rates, I mean, all of these, everybody is going to have to make it up somewhere. Right. So, for you, the consumer taking a trip like that, whether it's visiting the restaurant that you and your family are going to go to, those prices are up. The hotel prices are up. It's going to be a very tricky and difficult, I think, several months for the consumer. Yeah.
Well, thanks for that.
Yeah, sorry.
Don't bring the mood down, Hank.
Yeah, sorry.
All right, Hank, thank you so much, guys. We appreciate it.
Sure.
All right, it is June 11th today, and when we're back, we're going to take a look at a huge event that happened on this day in history over 200 years ago, why it changed the trajectory of the city of Detroit. Welcome back to Local 4 Live, everybody. Are you signed up for the morning report? You need to be. It's an awesome email newsletter that goes out every morning from our team over at clickondetroit.com. It always features the big news of the day, plus something kind of interesting, a good feature story about Detroit. Like this one. Did you know 220 years ago today, the city was nearly destroyed in a fire? Well, on June 11th, 1805, which was 210 years ago, the city looked nothing like it does right now. But back then, it was believed a man knocked ashes from his pipe. They blew onto piles of hay and straw. It quickly spread. And within 6 hours, the city was nearly destroyed. Now, mind you, at that time, only 600 people lived in Detroit, and almost all the buildings were made of wood. So that's why you can understand and put things in context. But also, after the rebuild, within 15 years, Detroit's population doubled. You can read more about that story right now on our homepage, clickondetroit.com. Well, if you were watching yesterday, we had Eric Erickson live all morning long at our Go For It event called A Really Good Cause. It was over in front of Oakland Mall. It got an overwhelming response, collecting bikes for kids and adults in Metro Detroit. People showed up all day long over there, donating bikes to repair and give some to those who might not otherwise be able to afford them. Last time we checked, almost 1,500 bikes have been donated. Hobie Artigue was out there stacking the bikes up himself.
You showed up at Oakland Mall for a really good cause.
Thank you, Detroit!
The outpouring of support nonstop for our Go For It event, collecting bikes to be fixed up and given away to people in need by 3 great local organizations.
So what made you want to come by today?
Well, I saw your ad or whatever it was, and it just touched my heart.
I had, 2 bikes sitting in the garage, and I thought this would be a great event, and especially, learning a little bit about the organization and the fact that they can especially get them to people who use them as transportation.
When I was about 8 or 10 years old, I had a bike stolen out of my backyard, and my parents couldn't get me a bike until the next year. A summer without a bike is terrible. I don't want anybody to experience that.
Hold on, we gotta talk to you about it.
From tandem bikes to
I've only seen one tandem bike in my life.
unicycles,
That's a good B-roll.
we saw just about everything,
This might be the smallest bike we've got today.
including bikes to make this activity
Thank you so much.
for everyone.
Because when my boys were small, they got benefits from the program. My son has cerebral palsy, and he got, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
He got special wheels for his bike to help him learn to ride a bike. And so I wanted to pay it forward and just acknowledge that this is a really great program.
Is it emotional watching you part ways with this?
Every single donation,
But still, it's your childhood bike.
came with a story.
I'm sure you have a big bike now.
Yes.
How do you feel when you're knowing that you're gonna be giving this bike to another kid and they get to enjoy it?
It just feels really good to give it to someone else when I don't really even need it.
I got it in 1963. I was 10 years old. Got the headlights. You had to register your bike back then. That's why I brought it here, so it can get used.
These bikes now ready for the next chapter.
What an incredible turnout. Thank you to everybody who showed up, and we cannot wait to see all the smiling faces in the cities and streets of Metro Detroit with all those brand new and repaired bicycles. Still ahead, it's going to be a hot one out there today. Ron's got your forecast that says today's a doozy, but there's a change coming. Also, we're going to look at your submissions to my picks, taking a closer look at your corner of Michigan that you wanted to share with the world. We'll show you some of those pictures live in just a few minutes. Welcome back to Local 4 Live, everybody. You sent them, we show them. That's how this works. You submitted your My Picks, and now we want to highlight a couple of them. Here is a look at last night's Strawberry Moon submitted by Diva Lady. We also have a photo submitted from Sandy over in Macomb County, labeling this one Moon over Macomb. Kind of looks like a postcard, doesn't it? There's a few more we can cycle through here. All those My Picks sent to us on our website, clickondetroit.com. Some beautiful photos. Keep sending them in. Thank you, Vicky. And we will keep showing them right here live. To send in your My Picks, just visit clickondetroit.com. It's very, very easy to do. Or you can scan the QR code on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. Ron is back with a final look at your forecast today. A hot day today, but that Strawberry Moon last night, that was pretty intense.
Yeah, and there's a chance to see it again tonight,
Really?
except we have increasing clouds. So it's one
Is
of
it
those
because of the
things.
haze? Is that why we see it like that?
That's the reason, yeah. You know, the Strawberry Moon, some people are thinking, oh, that's why it's reddish. But it's just based on the season and that this is around the time that you start to see the harvesting of strawberries. But yeah, we're seeing these deeper orange or red colors, Nick, because of the wildfire smoke. Yeah. Sunrise and sunset.
There's a science reason behind everything.
Yeah, so our sunrises, our sunsets, our moon rises and moon sets as well. Here's what we have in downtown Detroit. A little bit of haze, not all that bad. This view comes from Windsor, but look at this. You can get a better look at the haze on the horizon as we look from downtown towards southwest Detroit. You can see it there. 67 for Detroit, 66 in Ann Arbor, Pontiac, 64, 72 already in Monroe. A look at the airport where we're at 66 winds out of the southwest at 11 miles per hour. Look at this. Temps are quickly rising. 67 in downtown Detroit. Enjoy that because we're going to go another 20 degrees before the day is over. In the afternoon hours will be 87. The air quality is being impacted right now by those wildfires, but thankfully it is not bad enough to warrant any alerts for us here in Metro Detroit nor advisories. So we have a few clouds that will be developing later on this evening. Otherwise, we're going to be mostly sunny with the haze. The forecast shows the clouds developing later on tonight. As we get into those overnight hours, we'll see them continuing to build. And then by morning, a few showers popping up over the Saginaw Bay region, also in northern portions of the Thumb. By tomorrow evening, we will have the chance of a few showers and thunderstorms popping up here in Metro Detroit. Now, Nick, you had mentioned grilling. I had to bring out the grilling forecast.
Look at this graphic, the grilling forecast.
That's right. We'll be around 80 degrees as we go into the early afternoon hours, 85 for 2 p.m. And then the high again, 87. Those winds out of the southwest, 7 to 20 miles per hour, gusting to 30. Overnight lows are going to be mild, 63 degrees, increasing clouds. And over the next few days, you'll notice chances of rain, again, Thursday evening for us in Metro Detroit, some showers for Friday and Saturday. We're in the mid-70s, staying in the mid-70s through the weekend, going into Father's Day, and then going back into the 80s for Monday and Tuesday.
Look at that Father's Day, though. The whole weekend is beautiful.
It is really nice.
It's perfect. Okay,
Yeah.
so if you have any choice to throw anything on the grill, is it salmon? That's your go-to?
I think it would be salmon. That's my
Really?
go-to. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Some salmon, maybe some chicken breast or something like that. But salmon, I'm crazy about salmon. Anybody who knows me knows that I love salmon and spaghetti.
Together?
And together, yeah.
No.
Separate or together.
You would eat it together?
Yeah, I do.
Really?
Mix it up. Put it in a
Like
tortilla.
What kind of sauce goes on there? In a tortilla?
Hey, I love.
Did you just say salmon?
I love
and
Mexican food too.
pasta in a
I have a strange diet. Got to try
You're
it.
a strange guy.
That's who, Nick.
All right, Ron, thanks, buddy. So much more to come here throughout the day on Local 4. Live in the D, they're on the road. Tati and Kim are live at the Detroit Zoo, which you can barely see because of all that haze. They're going to check out what's new at the zoo and a brand new dragon exhibit, two familiar favorites like the apes. You can see them. A special look at the community gem, everything they have to offer there. Plus, there's a big event that's giving people a whole new experience at the zoo. All of that coming up today on Live in the D in about 1 hour and 4 minutes, almost 3 minutes now. Thank you for joining us for Local 4 Live. More news and weather ahead, always here on Local 4 Plus and clickondetroit.com. Make it a great Wednesday, everybody.
Nobody likes you, Michelle.